Privatiseringer, hvor for eksempel en del af den danske energiforsyning er blevet solgt til finansspekulanterne i Goldman Sachs for en pose jordnødder. Flere skattelettelser til de rigeste betalt af nedskæringer i den offentlige sektor. Nedsættelse af selskabsskatten med henvisning til, at det var nødvendigt, for det havde Reinfeldt gjort i Sverige. En total underkastelse under EU med tilslutning til finanspagten og til Merkel-doktrinen. Da Danmark i januar 2012 tiltrådte som formand for det europæiske råd, så udtalte den socialdemokratiske statsminister Helle Thorning-Schmidt, at der bare var én prioritet, som det galt om at arbejde efter, og det var at redde euroen. Alt andet, inklusiv kampen mod arbejdsløshed, var underordnet. Resultatet ser vi nu. Trods at Danmark er et af verdens rigeste lande, så øges uligheden. Et af verdens rigeste lande, så øges uligheden. På trods af, at Danmark er et af verdens rigeste lande, så øges utrygheden. Unge mennesker kan se frem til at arbejde længere til en lavere løn end deres forældre. Og vanlige lønmodtagere frygter, at om de dræbes af arbejdsløshed eller sygdom, så må de gå fra hus og hjem. På arbejdspladsen skrues tempoet op. De fleste dukker nakken af frygt for fyresedlen. På den baggrund er det ikke underligt, at Socialdemokraterne og SF har mistet en femtedel af deres vælgere siden valget. Og det er heller ikke underligt, at Dansk Folkeparti har lykkedes at udpege flygtninge og indvandrere og underbetalte udenlandske arbejdere som syndebukke. Skal den udvikling vendes, så står vi over for en dobbelt opgift. For det første skal vi gøre noget ved ondets rod. Der er ingen mulighed for politisk retræte. Det er nødvendigt at gå i offensiven. Gennem brud med EU's finanspagt må vi generobre en smule økonomisk handlefrihed til at sætte i gang i grønne investeringer, som både kan skabe arbejdspladser og som kan sætte ind over for den truende klimakatastrofe. Vi må fordele arbejdet, så ingen var arbejdsløse, mens andre knokler sig halvt ihjel. Og vi må gribe ind over for finanskapitalen, blandt andet ved etablering af en samfundsbank, som kan være et værn mod kriser og casinoøkonomi. Og for det andet, så må vi jo opbygge en kraft, som giver mennesker tiltro til, at disse forandringer er muligt. Det lykkedes for Syriza i Grækenland. Ikke bare at blive den største kraft på venstrefløjen, men at blive den største kraft i samfundet, og dermed gøre håbet om forandring realistisk. I Danmark er vi langt fra den situation. Selv hvis vi medregner Socialistisk Folkeparti, som har forladt regeringen og er gået til venstre, det er positivt, så udgør vi jo kun 15-20% af stemmerne. Skal det ændres, så må det ske gennem de erfaringer, som lønmodtagere indhøster i kampen mod arbejdsgiverne. Det så vi for eksempel under den lange lærerkonflikt i 2013, hvor Enhedslisten voksede fra at være et relativt lille parti til at være det største parti blandt de knap 100.000 lærere i Danmark. Derfor ser vi også frem til vårens aftaleforhandlinger, hvor 1 million offentlige ansatte i kommuner og stat skal forhandle løn og arbejdsvilkår. Det vil være en af de situationer, hvor bevidstheden kan rykke hurtigt, og hvor venstrefløjen kan vinde frem, hvis vi formår at organisere indsatsen og optræde samlet. Til sidst, bare et ord om international solidaritet. Efter Syrizas valgsejr i Grækenland er det klart, at vi alle må bidrage til at styrke solidariteten med det græske folk. Demonstrationer, støtteudtalelser, det er godt. Men det vigtigste er, at vi lægger pres på vores egen regering. Vi skal gøre alt, hvad vi kan, for hverken den danske eller den svenske regering støtter EU's pression mod Grækenland. Vi skal gøre, hvad vi kan, for at støtte kravet om et skyldsmoratorium og en skyldskonference så hurtigt som muligt. Det skal vi gøre for den græske venstrefløj. Det skal vi gøre for at hjælpe Syriza. Men vi skal frem for alt gøre det for os selv. Et nederlag i Grækenland vil gøre det vanskeligere for os alle. Til gengæld vil en sejr over EU's nedskæringspolitik åbne døren for flere sejre og fremgang overalt i Europa. Tak for ordet. Støt med det.
Tack Sören, mycket. Jag vill säga till alla er som står att det finns massa platser här. Det är bara mina och min och lite andras jackor som ligger här. Så vill man sitta så går det jättebra att komma och sitta på stolarna här. Det finns ett gäng stolar där också. Och nu kommer det några tal på engelska. Och vill man då ha översättning till engelska så finns det uppe i det hörnet. Nej, från engelska till svenska så finns det uppe i det hörnet. Och vår sista talare har också kommit så hon kan få passa på att smita ut nu. Bienvenido Tony Garcia de Podemos. Välkommen! Tony Garcia är medlem sedan starten av Podemos, också medlem i Antikapitalista, en av organisationerna som grundade Podemos. Och han ska berätta för oss om deras arbete och kamp på engelska.
Buenas noches, good evening to everybody. First of all, I want to apologize for not speaking Swedish, and as well my English is not so good, but I'm doing my best, and so I think you could be able to understand me. I want to thank the Socialistic Party friends for their invitation to come to this Rock Forum. It's a real pleasure for me. And I want to send an internationalist greetings from all Podemos fellows in the Spanish state. We are right now immersed in two very important things. On one side, we are developing the election of internal party leadership at regional level all over the country. And on the other side, tomorrow morning will take place in Madrid a big demonstration called the March of Change, in which hundreds of thousands of people coming from all parts of the country will show that 2015, this year, will be the year of change in Spain and all Southern Europe. This year of change has already had an essential first date. On Sunday, January 25, our friends from Syriza won the elections in Greece. I want to congratulate them and transmit the fraternal embrace of thousands of people who were closely following the election from Spain. We were attentive to the news from Athens that were sent by two of our fellows, Lola Sanchez, member of the European Parliament, and Miguel Urban, one of the founders of Podemos, who traveled to Greece to support Syriza. These elections were lived in Spain with great attention. Therefore, by the establishment, by the political right, which is afraid of what is happening in Europe, but also by the people that have taken these elections as if we were all Greeks. Because you people of Greece led the way for all the people of Southern Europe. It's hard to know where to start talking about Podemos and Spain. I guess many of you know a little about our history, but I want to talk about a little. Among other things, because the Swedish left played a major role in supporting those who fought against the dictatorship of Franco, and we will always be grateful for that. I don't want to do it too long, but I need to talk about the past. As you know, Spain had, among the years 1931 and 1939, one of the most advanced experiences of leftist government and simultaneously of social revolution, one of the more interesting in the history of Western Europe, the Republic. In 1936, the fascist General Franco, uprising against the Republican legitimate government, began a civil war that ended 3 years later with the defeat of the left. And a 38 years dictatorship began then, until democratic elections in 1977, 2 years after the dictatorship death. At that time, it took place what is known as the transition. And it was a transition because it wasn't a political break. The dictatorship's regime was transformed from within, leading to a series of agreements with the two main opposition parties, the Socialist Party, the Social Democrat Party, and the Old Communist Party. Both of them accepted a monarchy imposed by the dictator, supported an amnesty for all Franquism crimes, accepted the territorial unity of Spain over the democratic aspirations of nations such as Catalonia or Basque Country, and both of them accepted the role of the army and the church in the Spanish political life, and both of them renounced to the more radical aspiration of the popular sectors. This big agreement resulted in the adoption of a new constitution in 1978. What they are now experiencing is not only the result of the global financial crisis, which has also become a systemic crisis, but in the case of Spain, is the crisis of this regime of 78. That regime crisis has been developing for a long time, with a discredited monarchy, with a bipartisanship that has divided up the power at all levels of government for decades, with a large speculative capital that has destroyed the productive fabric of the country, which has devastated the territory and the environment with the housing bubble, with serving media power in the hands of a few people, with a system of government based on systematic corruption. In recent years, corruption trials fully accused to members of the royal family, to members of the ruling party, the Popular Party, Conservatives, to members from the Socialist Party also, from the Catalonian National Right Party called CIU, but every party has been involved in corruption. Corruption has been everywhere. We have lived in the government of a real mob. Although this regime crisis has been developing for many years, it had its outbreak in the movement of May 15, 2011, called the 15M movement, which marked a radical change, a milestone in the Spanish politics. That May 15, something totally unexpected occurred. Thousands of people filled the streets and squares from the Puerta del Sol in Madrid to the Plaza de Catalunya in Barcelona in demonstrations called more or less anonymously via internet with the following slogan: "We are tired of politicians and bankers, we want real democracy now." The demonstration in Madrid began spontaneously in a camp, and after the repression by the police, solidarity became camps in the streets of every city across the country, which lasted for weeks and became the center of political and social debate. They marked a real epochal change, a transformation of common sense among the people. We met and we protested, tired of austerity reforms imposed by Zapatero government, the Social Democratic government. We got up against the regime that was shown each day more loyal to the top, while the social majorities were increasingly deprived of their social and labor rights. A regime that saw its expiration. In those months, we all saw that people wanted another way to make politics based on radical democracy, that people were asking other economic, social and political model, based on the needs of those who were in the bottom. But also, it was a movement which relocated politics in the agenda. the 19% against the 1% that were dispossessing them, taking advantage of the scam of the crisis. Ultimately, it created a new collective imagination, an awareness that we have to fight collectively and propose another solution to the crisis. One of the most unanimous shouts of those months was, "They call it democracy, but it isn't," and another one, "They do not represent us. No nos representan." It was a shout against the politicians, but not against the politics. In this movement, there were many things at once, even contradictory, and in this case, many people wanted to mean, we want someone to represent us really. Politics in the Spanish state changed for a whole period. The population was suspicious of traditional parties, but new options from the left did not fully crystallize. It was the left who had to make the effort and be able to learn more, to learn from these new forms of popular self-organization that did not emerge from the laboratory of any party or university, but rather from some specific material conditions. People had no institutional channels to express their anger and boredom. What did people do then? Create their own. That's a great lesson for the left. In this context was born Podemos, that, as you know, means we can. There is no doubt that not all reactions to the crisis in Europe have been the same. Unfortunately, the extreme right is a serious threat in many countries. We only need to look to the rise of UKIP in the UK or the National Front in France, including the Golden Dawn in Greece. You will tell me if we can include the Sweden Democrats in the same block, but I think so, right? Do you know why in Spain there has been no growth of the far right? That's because there was the 15F movement. The 15F has been batching against fascist way out of the crisis. The so-called social liberal left, not to mention the conservatives, rather than fight these enemies of human rights, they adapt to them, as I think it's also happening here in Sweden. This shows that when there is no mobilization from below, from the citizens, and democratic monsters may arise. Do not forget that fascism is hate from the penultimate against the last. Instead, when we fight, we meet together against a common enemy and hate move to another axis. We are those at the bottom against the top. In politics, nothing is close, the sides are configured in the fight. Since the crisis began in Europe, social cutbacks and austerity policies have been implemented by both the right and the Social Democrats. In the Spanish state, both the Zapatero Social Democrat as the Rajoy's Popular Party have cut workers' rights, they have lowered salaries, they have allowed thousands and thousands of people are evicted from their homes because they cannot pay the mortgage payment or the rent, and meanwhile they have rescued banks with public money, and they have encouraged the payment of the debt at the expense of public services, including changing the constitution for this reason, even as before they said it was unchangeable. And they have passed laws that reduce democratic rights. The southern countries are in the way of underdevelopment to become the periphery of the financial centers. But we are resisting, of course we are resisting. They have done it in Greece with general strikes, in Syntagma Square, in the elections with Syriza. In the Spanish state, the split between what the rulers do and the citizens has increased. It is not politics what is in crisis, it is its system of representation. In Spain, the platform of people affected by mortgage fight against evictions. This is a good example. Thousands of families have been evicted from their homes by banking abuses. The victims of eviction, with the support of neighbors and activists, decided to stop being victims and organized to stop evictions, facing the police and facing banks. Given the problems that the political class has not been able to solve, a sector of the population said enough and has made it through disobedience. They have stopped thousands of evictions and allowed thousands of families remain in their homes, even with occupations. The world of work has not been left out of this resistance. There have been some massive general strikes, one in 2010 and two in 2012, sorry. Not as many as in Greece, where they had about 30 general strikes, often driven more by social movements rather than the union themselves. This is important. They have been political strikes. Last year, on March 22, there was the March for Dignity, with people across the country who came to Madrid to a big demonstration. Called by social movements, leftist parties and alternative unions. More than 500,000 people took the streets with a simple slogan: bread, work and housing. The official unions were shocked. I think they thought, wow, they can mobilize without us. Many people realized that to be mobilized is essential, but it is not sufficient. We must fight on all fronts, including the election. To have speakers in institutions serving the movement, to provide us by Trojan horses in the spaces. We know that people power will be built against bourgeois institutions, but in the Spanish state, it was open a political space created by the movements of resistance that allows the construction of an interface to contest the political battle against the parties of capital and convert indignation in political power to the people. That's where Podemos arises. Just a year ago, we presented the initiative on January 17, 2014. Podemos is a large space driven by a group of university professors and students, among which was Pablo Iglesias, who were